Episode 3 of the Hightide. This was an episode that I recorded with my current roommate, DJ, who I've known for a couple of years now. And we talk about it during the podcast. I was actually on an episode of his podcast recently called We Got Nothing, LOS, which stands for Life of Saturn Productions. And he is the blue version. So I hopped on an episode of that with him recently and decided to have him on for episode 3 of my podcast. This episode, we mostly just talked about social media and the negative implications that it has. And we talked about some other technology type things. And yeah, that's about it. It's a bit of a shorter one, but as always, hope you guys enjoyed. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to episode 3 of the High Tide. Today, I've got my friend and roommate DJ on with me. DJ, how are you tonight?
Yo, yo, yiggity, yo, what is good, everyone? I am relieved, actually. I am coming away from a 3-day straight, 12-hour shift binge-a-thon, raking in all that cash and pushing away where I have to, earn money real quick. Yeah, I think I'm still 2 months behind on rent, which, if I'm not careful enough, soon to be 3.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are behind on rent right now with COVID and everything.
Yeah, you're like, what, 2 or 3 months also?
I'm only a month behind. I owe October, that's it. But I'm about to pay that this week. I decided that right now it's kind of hard to find a job, and I'm pretty balls deep in the school semester. And I've got this one professor that's just like giving me all these papers. I was just telling you about this, man. Fucking 9-page paper to write in a week. And it's like, that's doable, but what professors don't understand is that their class doesn't exist within a bubble. So it's like, I have your work, sure, but then it's like, dude, I've also got, 4 other classes. So I just got a lot going on, and with my schedule, I'd only be able to work a couple days a week. And, I'm getting regular unemployment, and the amount of money that I would get working a minimum wage job a couple days a week is really not that much more than the regular unemployment. But I can't pay my rent on a regular unemployment, so I'm kind of in a bad position.
Yeah, these older dudes who say that, they used to go to college full time and then pay it all off with a part time job. I want to know what kind of stuff they be smoking, because I'd love to live on that reality too. Will that transport me back in time when I'm sure that was an actual possibility?
I think at one point it was a reality, but the thing is that's not our reality. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, like, college wasn't as expensive as it is.
See, I don't think they get the concept of inflation, especially over, what we're talking about, probably at least 3 to 4 decades.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things have gone up in price. It's pretty crazy. At least gas is cheap. That's one good thing with COVID, I guess.
Well, was it at one point like a comic book was like 10 cents, and now you're lucky if it's like $2?
Yeah, $2 is cheap nowadays. I used to be pretty big into comic books. I was big into comic books, but I didn't really read a lot of superhero comic books, which was weird. I read a lot of Star Wars, and I've read all the Walking Dead comics too. Those were way better than the show.
Right, right. I got into Archie comics when I first started reading up on them, and then of course you go through the superhero stuff. But yeah, like you said, there's also there's Detective Comics, there's the Walking Dead stuff. Like, that stuff really impressed me. Yeah, like you said, much better than the show.
Yeah, the comics kind of ended randomly. He announced it like a month before the last comic came out. He's just like, yeah, I'm ending this. And I was like, oh, okay. But I like the way he ended the comic book series.
Well, that's the thing about a lot of TV series and comic book series. Once they enter a certain realm of popularity, there's always the possibility that it's not always going to stick the landing, and that's what makes it really hard when it comes to those big time franchises.
Yeah, it's hard to, because like the books and comics, part of the reason I think that they're better is that when it comes to like a show or a movie, you have the physical person that plays the character, and if they're beefing on set, or if like they get sick, or if they die, or whatever the fuck happens, like, shit happens. We're people, man. actors are people too. They, a lot of times they have to get written out of the show versus the words. You can always just write that character's name.
Why must you have died at this time? This was not in the script. Do you know how much this is going to set us back? God. Actors.
Yeah.
Now he's forever going to...
another world, man.
Now he's forever going to be in his trailer. God. That's where he died, so, yeah.
Speaking of trailers, a kid I went to high school with just got arrested for robbing people's trailers, apparently.
Oh, no shit. Did he rob pedophiles? Because that I understand.
No, I don't even know. I read something, it was like, the cops found, like, a trailer with, like, a personal water vehicle. That's what they said. I'm assuming that's a fucking jet ski. I don't know what other personal water vehicle there would be. Maybe there's a lifeboat in this trailer or something. But, yeah, so this trailer was, like, found in the middle of the road, and they were just, like, investigating it. They're like, why the fuck is this trailer here? And the next thing you know, they're like, they get a call that some guy's, like, stealing a trailer, and they're like, apparently this kid I went to high school with was caught fleeing from someone's house with a trailer hitched to his vehicle.
What the fuck? I've heard of some crazy things with stealing a whole home, no matter how small, oh my god. Did they know why he did it? Did he say why?
I don't know. I'm just gonna go with this kid likes to live his life like it's a game of fucking Grand Theft Auto and leave it at that.
Yo, son, if it was about money, then just do the wise thing and get an OnlyFans. Like, you can be creative with it. You don't have to, give out dick pics or, selling bathwater. I don't know, do something creative with it. Like, videotape yourself, punching out, random people. Who deserve it, by the way. We don't condone violence unless it is deserved upon.
Dude, this whole OnlyFans thing is pretty crazy. I won't name names or anything, but I know a lot of women that are very young. Let's say like in the 16 to 20-year-old range. That not only are they making the OnlyFans and posting stuff.
Now that you lead off with that, I'm scared where this is going.
But on top of the whole like just posting pictures of your tits or whatever. I guess that's one thing, but nah, dude, I'm seeing straight, like, my Snapchat is filled with, like, advertisements for straight porn. Like, people just doing straight porn. Like, you are not a porn star.
Oh, yeah, it's reached over here in Plattsburgh, too. I'm not going to name names either, but there are a ton of people I know in our very own town that do have their own OnlyFans. Hell, a mutual friend of ours, he's talking to this one chick who has an OnlyFans, and she's trying to get him in on the action. And actually, I was talking to him the other day about this. Like, do you think if guys agree to be on an OnlyFans video or whatever, do you think they should get compensated as well? Like, I guess you could make the argument like, hey, you're having sex with a really like nice looking chick. It's like, yeah, and everyone else will be able to see my penis. You bet your ass that they're not going to see that shit for free.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel like everybody that's involved in particular content should get money off of that content, no matter whether it's OnlyFans or whatever the fuck it is. And I'm not necessarily condoning OnlyFans. I personally don't purchase anybody's OnlyFans. I think that's kind of a waste of money, in my opinion. But anyways, if you want to do it, you do you. But, like, there's just some really young people doing it that probably shouldn't be doing it,
Well, that's the problem with sites like that. And this goes for, like, any social media platform whatsoever. There is always the possibility that somebody is lying about how old they are. And the fact of the matter is, because it is internet, there is no actual way to check and verify without violating probably certain rights of the law.
Yeah, another thing too is Tinder. I know there's a lot of people, that says that they're 18 on Tinder, and they're definitely, like 15, 16, 17 on Tinder. And that could be pretty problematic for people that are older and they think, oh, this person's 18. And next thing you know, here comes a statutory rape charge.
An automatic swipe left for me is if there's only one photo.
Yeah, that's a pretty big red flag. Usually that's a sign of a fake profile.
Another personal, this one's more of a personal, thing with me. It also depends on their bio. girl,
I
don't
actually read the bios.
I do too. I don't care how good you look in a bikini or like how many drinks or how many friends you got. Girl, if your bio only like is superficial or work. So there was this Vermont girl I swiped one time, and her bio read, and I quote, "It's all fun and games till I fuck your dad."
Yikes.
I'm like, what did I just read? Like, I'm sorry, what? Is this a new concept? Is this... I don't... It takes daddy complex to a very, very uncomfortable level.
Yeah, there's a lot of chicks have they call her daddy in their bio. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have actually caught a couple episodes of that podcast. Like, it... Honestly, not truly my cup of tea, at least not on a regular basis, but it's a good insight into the female mindset, especially for like probably for girls who pay attention for more to the mainstream, especially when it comes to fashion, makeup, and all that jazz. Like it gives you kind of an insight in their mind.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I try to stay away from Tinder. I talked about this. I actually did a podcast with you. I hopped onto your podcast, and towards the end of it, I mentioned social media. But before we get into social media, you talk about your podcast a little bit.
Oh yes. So I am part of a media company called Life on Saturn, LOS Productions, and we just recently got the idea of doing a podcast. So far, we have 2 episodes on there. There's one with my personal podcast, and there's one with my partner's podcast. His name is Ahan. It's called We Got Nothing. My version is the blue version. His is the red. He talks more about the geek stuff. I can talk about the geek stuff too, but usually I try to get more into the nitty gritty and more like real world issues nowadays, like especially the political landscape. And for the second episode of We Got Nothing Blue version, that's my version of the podcast, I will be featuring Ed on there, and that airs this Tuesday night at 8 o'clock only on YouTube.
Word. Yes, mine can only be found on YouTube for the moment as well. Eventually, I'd like to get this shit on Spotify, but we'll see.
Yeah, thanks monetization for requiring an RSS link.
Yeah, usually I play music in the background, but I decided to get rid of that. Just copyright issues, and I'm sick of hearing ads and shit, you know.
No, fucking ads.
But I do like some nice like coffee shop music background, you know.
Oh yeah, like get some chill hop beats on there, lo-fi, you know.
Yes. But anyways, back to social media. So at the end of your podcast, I briefly told you how I deleted social media. I still have Facebook. I don't really go on it. I use that mostly for the messenger service. And I've got Snapchat. That's, mostly personal stuff. And there's a reason I have to have Snapchat, but I won't really get into that right now. But anyways, I deleted Instagram. I've never really had a Twitter. And I think I talked about this on the second episode of the podcast as well, but I recently, last night, watched The Social Dilemma. It's a Netflix documentary. You should definitely check it out.
So what's the real concept and whatever behind The Social Dilemma?
So it's a bunch of guys. Well, there's some ladies as well, and they're all people that were really big into the social media companies. People that help develop certain softwares, that help develop all these different things. And they basically got into why social media is addicting, why social media companies are purposely making it more addicting, and how they're kind of playing on basic human psychology. And it's just like, it's polarizing the nation, and, a lot of people are really kind of realizing that. But the reason it's polarizing the nation is it's showing you certain things based on what it thinks you're going to like, and it tries to get you to be on Facebook as long as possible so they can show you as many ads as possible. Like, it's specifically, there's algorithms done to do that. But the thing about these algorithms is that supposedly there's only a handful of people in these companies that actually, like, made the software and made the algorithms and understand what's happening. And even then, they don't fully understand what's happening.
Well, the whole design behind, like, when you get a notification from one of these social media sites, it sends a spike of dopamine to the brain because it's it's turned into a pleasure sensor when somebody likes your status or shares it, or because it gets you recognition. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I don't know. Apparently, one of the things they pointed out too was like, and this one kind of really, I really was just like, holy shit, when it came to this one particular fact that this documentary gave out. And they said, if you know how when you Google something, how like you'll type in whatever and then it like autofills the rest or it pops up with a bunch of suggestions below it?
Yeah.
Right, so I think they use the example of climate change. So they typed in climate change is, and depending on where you were in the world or where you, like whether or not you were in a blue state or a red state or depending on where you were, it autofilled different things and it gave you different suggestions.
Really.
Yeah. Now Google is our source of is not necessarily our entire source of information, but it should be our a source of information, and that's fucked up.
So wait a minute. Like, say if you were in a red state or something, and you looked up, I don't know, something like regarding elections and whatnot, would it give you more of a look at conservative and Republican side and painting them in a better light than, say, if you look something
More
up
than
here
likely.
in New York?
More than likely, yeah. And that's kind of what this is getting at. And it's like, that's not really good. That's where people go for information.
That's crazy.
And if that's the information you're getting, like that's partially how we get so polarized because you get these whole areas where everything they look up is now, pointing towards, pro-Republican. And then everybody they know. And that's how you get, like, these massive just centers of just straight red and straight blue.
That also raises the question, too, like, if that be the case, is there a better alternate, like, search engine site? And more importantly, this is the argument I have with other people when they say look up stuff. And it's like, okay, we can look it up, but what is going to prove that the information we look up is actually factual? Because you can't trust news outlets nowadays.
Right. Yeah. News outlets. That's the thing. The news outlets seem to be following the business model of social media and just trying to promote viewers and ads and this and that. And the thing about that is that to invoke a lot of views and get that ad revenue, they're saying outrageous things, crazy headlines and just even sometimes not false stuff and just stuff that's going to grab your attention versus unbiased straight factual news.
Some people are still are starting to question even the legitimacy of NPR, and that used to be untouchable. It's getting to the point where media platforms like podcasts like this, Joe Rogan is especially included in this, where these are the places where you can get I don't know if you could necessarily say factual information. Like, some of that stuff you do have to research yourself, but it's unbiased information.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty raw information. Just speaking straight facts, just having a normal intellectual conversation as opposed to some crazy news snippet. And I don't know, just the way that the news and social media sites and everything is operating is really scary. Especially when you look at it, I think they talked about this in the Social Dilemma too. Fake news on social media platforms travels like some 6 times faster than real news, and it's crazy because you have all of these people hearing about something such as like Pizzagate, right?
Right.
And that's like not even a real thing. That actually resulted in somebody going into a pizza shop with an assault rifle, and he was trying to go there for a noble reason to save some enslaved sex trafficked people, and the thing is that was legitimately fake news. But then you don't hear in the news and on social media all the time about Epstein's Island. Obviously we did hear about it, but it wasn't super spread around, and it's not even really talked about that much. And it's like, that's a real fucking thing.
Yeah.
And the Clintons went there dozens of times.
Yeah, you notice how the Ghislaine Maxwell stories have absolutely died down. Like, I remember that was a big story this summer, and it just dissipated. Like,
Who was that?
That was Epstein's right hand woman. That she was
okay.
kind of the vice president pimp in charge of getting all the girls together and whatnot.
No shit. Yeah, so it's just crazy that it's like because that's like a real thing and that isn't widely talked about. Where some of these crazy things out there that are just complete bullshit are just spread like wildfire.
Well, that's how people like say the Clintons who like probably have like news anchors and whatnot in their back pocket this is how corporations and people just who are at the top cover their asses. They spread the fear, or not really the fear even. They spread misinformation or bullshit stories, and they're bullshit too. But guess what? That's what's just going to be plastered up. Best example, right around when the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff went on, the whole stories with the failing marriage between Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, that was big for a while too. And yes, it did shed a light on men's mental health, but at the same time also, you're plastering that over what could potentially break open a pedophile ring that people have been knowing about for fucking decades. And it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah, I think a lot of and the other thing too is it's like we've gotten on this whole system of like 24 hours a day. There's got to be news, There's got to be some breaking news every second of every fucking minute, and it's like, how about we, a lot of the stuff that's on the news isn't really breaking news, especially a lot of the shit with like celebrities, like, oh, this person broke up with this person cheated on this person. It's like, how many times shit like that happens to normal everyday people all the time. People get cheated on all the time. People come and go from relationships all the time. That's not fucking newsworthy.
Happens
just
in this
because
town
it's a fucking
all the
celebrity,
time.
man.
And retracking back to what I said at the beginning when I'm like these old people think they can pay for college with a part-time job and whatnot. I also want to go back to the times where news was only available at 7 in the morning, and then 5 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock. That was it. You missed that shit. Tough fucking luck. Look at the newspapers, but I don't know. I miss those times too, cause once you live in a situation like ours where information, news, like the next story is right at your fingertips 24 hours a day, not only does that create a sense of paranoia, but it also has the polar opposite effect. It creates a sense of apathy. Like, there are so many, deep, sad stories that could actually be true and information where I just don't care. Where's that story where somebody saves a cat from a tree? Where's the kid that beats cancer?
Right, yeah, that's the thing is, the good news doesn't really get the views as much as the bad news does.
Of course, that's the algorithm for the news in general.
Yeah, it's always nice when you do see some good news. It's not very often. But back to what you were kind of talking about, too, with the whole apathy thing. That's actually, I was hearing about that with the coronavirus, is that, people are actually feeling numb because of everything that's going on. And, not numb is in, a physical sense, but in an emotional sense. And on top of that, as the death toll rises, one would think people, feel more empathy towards coronavirus victims and whatnot, but it actually has the opposite effect. People feel less empathy because they're just like, oh, it's just more fucking numbers on a screen. We see this every day, you know what I mean?
Well, here's the reason, I argue with the fact that, it's bigger, it's not as big as it is, because for the past few years now, I've just been saying that there's just been more apathy than I've ever seen in a lifetime, and then coronavirus hits, the apathy is still there. And hell, I've talked to my uncles about this. It always has been. I think one of the reasons why you notice it more is the same reason why why there's so much news. Once you go seeking this information, you truly become desensitized to it. And I think it's always been there, but now it has a 24/7 camera always watching it, so you notice it more, and then it becomes, I guess it becomes more scarier because it's constantly being magnified.
Yeah. My biggest fear is that, with all this social media and the news and everything, the way that it's currently going, especially if you've seen some of the deep fakes and stuff like that, I think it's going to get to the point, and it already kind of has in some sense, but I think it's going to get to the point where really, like, the average, normal, intelligent person, like, I'm not talking about just, some, like, complete morons that just, watched their Facebook feed and think everything they see is true. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking about, normal, educated, intelligent people are not going to be able to know the difference between fake and real news.
I'm not going to name names here, but there are people on my friend list that post like the article, the first article they see that gets them the most pissed off, and it's probably from some unknown site, or worse, it's from something like CNN or something like that. Stuff like there's no .orgs, there's no .edu. Remember back in school where we were like, if this story came from like a .org or a .edu or like basically anything that's not a .com, like there was some actual weight and fact to it. Nowadays you can't tell, and always this was actually talked about by a dude, like a former dude from CNN. I didn't catch the name or whatnot. But what he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically he was at one point charged to like write these headline articles that garnered the most reaction, the most negative reaction from a person to instill rage. Because you see that a lot nowadays, because as soon as they see that headline that causes that emotional response, they feel like they have to do something. But what's the first thing they do? They share the fucking article on social media, and that's when it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like what people don't realize is that they'll see something that pisses them off and enrages them, and then they'll share it, and granted, with their share, they'll say, "Oh, look at this fucking garbage," or whatever the hell they decide to say. But the thing is that you're still sharing it, which is then allowing more people to see it, which is then helping the cause behind that particular piece of information that you're sharing.
Here's my question: does anyone genuinely read these articles? Because I feel like, because some of them, when I actually go into depth in reading them, yeah, there is anger stirred up, but it's more stirred up from, there are certain parts of this that just don't make sense to me, and then it becomes like it truly is, the devil is within the details, and if A does not equal B, then there has to be some validity within the article that you have to question. But the moment you do question something, then they get down on your ass like, frick. I'm not going to name any names here. This wasn't an article thing. This was a social media thing. Right around this time last year, there was a Facebook friend of mine who shared his own status saying socialism is a good thing. I looked at this and I dropped my phone laughing, and I'm like, bro, no, it's fucking not, dude. Like, you look at these countries like Switzerland and hell, even Canada, and when you have people visit here, those citizens will, like, in spite of the fact of our president, they will say, you guys actually don't know how lucky you got it. To us.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just, the old saying, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Oh, without a doubt. But here's the thing also. The grass is only as green as much as you take care of it, as green as you make it. And that's what people, I think one of the biggest things that humanity has been grappling with this, especially the past couple decades, is that we've always been instilled, like, to try to achieve more, to go better. Like, this is the standard that society should be gunning towards. I was watching this video the other day, and it was even saying that how most of us are probably going to live ordinary lives, and just as many people are not going to be satisfied. That they're going to be chasing that dream to always go better and better, when nobody just stops and, like, sorry to be cheesy about this, but smell the roses. Like, just take a moment to enjoy what you've got, what you've worked towards up until this point, and just, like, appreciate the fact that you might have a roof over your head, air in your lungs, food in your stomach, and hell, for some of the more luckier ones, a person to actually talk to, cuddle up with at night, or people. I don't know.
Yeah, people do need to take a step back and, appreciate the little things sometimes. But like you said, a lot of it's just, we gotta strive towards this, strive towards that. And I don't know. It's good to have a goal and something to strive towards, but sometimes it's unrealistic. And especially, there's always going to be somebody out there that's better than you. You know what I mean? And you're going to be better than those people in certain ways, but I think the main measure of success right now is kind of money, and there's always going to be people that have those flashier things than you.
And there's the definition, I think, right there with what you just said, a difference between a goal and an obsession. An obsession is a goal that's unrealistic to attain. A goal is a standard of living that you hope to achieve that actually can be possible, you know?
Yeah. Some people just have the most unrealistic goals, and I think some of that goes, towards social media. Because, as a kid, you might be seeing all these people driving Lamborghinis and fucking Ferraris and, the latest model of Tesla or whatever it is. And, granted, those things are achievable, but they're not meant, to be achieved by everybody. And I think, you're seeing all that on social media, and, you want that. And it's cool to want something like that, but at the end of the day, like, if you have a working car that gets you from point A to point B, what does it really matter?
Yeah, more importantly, what does it matter to the other person what fucking car you drive? And bouncing off what you were saying, like, I think it is possible to achieve certain aspects of those kind of goals, but the moral of the story is don't break your back or your sanity in trying to achieve those goals, because by then you have that goal and look where it leads you. Like,
Yeah, and then it's like you're gonna get that car, and the next thing you know, there's the next best car out, or that other guy's posting, some more expensive version of that car, and you're like, damn it, I want that now too, and it's just like it just doesn't stop.
I mean, this calls upon this calls out the entire consumerist culture that we currently live in right now.
It's not a good one, man. It's not a good one.
Nah, and they've been predicting this for years. I mean, hell, you go back to the 70s there. 1978, the original Dawn of the Dead. That movie, George A. Romero's movie there, that was a full-on satire about consumerist culture. I mean, all the zombies were living at a fucking mall. Like, at the time, that was the perfect mirror of American society right now, because that's when the 70s is when malls were invented, because that's when Generation Me was there.
Yeah, I wish the malls weren't a dying breed.
I do too, honestly, because there's online shopping that's cheaper. There's especially nowadays with COVID stuff, it's probably safer also, but it's the same thing when I get tight with Tinder. Like, I would much rather meet a girl in person and talk to them and actually have a conversation than like a picture, talk to a picture. And also, one of the things I hate about text is that there's so much that cannot be communicated, or worse, that can be miscommunicated via text. That's why I always go for phone calls versus text.
Yeah, I'm a big phone talker myself too. I would much rather, call somebody for 10 minutes than text them all throughout the day, you know what I mean?
That's why stuff like podcasts right now are becoming bigger, because it's clear cut and dry. There's no bullshit. It's direct communication right there.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. I don't know. I think that phones are such a bad way to communicate. I think that they have their good uses, but I think they're kind of misused by most people.
Yeah, yeah, they're good if you know how to use them correctly, like any other tool in society.
Yeah, one of the things that Social Dilemma movie actually said was that they described, like, they gave a definition of a tool as, like, say you have like a shovel or something like that, and your shovel is a tool because it's something that's there when you need to use it, and you use it. Your shovel's not prompting you to do anything. Your shovel's not fucking doing all this stuff. But social media, is considered a tool, so to speak. You can't see that podcast, but I did the air quotes there. And
You teach a man to fish with a fishing pole, he's gonna be thriving for a hot minute. But you teach a man to fish with a fucking golf club, I give that dude like a full week before he's either dead or fucking batshit from starvation.
yeah, for sure. And basically, what this documentary was getting at was pretty much that social media isn't a tool because you don't just go and pick up your cell phone when you need to use it. Social media is always sending you notifications, giving you that dopamine hit, trying to draw you back into it to get you to watch these ads. And that's not really a tool because it's asking shit of you. It's prompting you to do stuff. It's not a tool. If it was a tool, then you would just pick it up when you had something to post or when you were in search of particular information.
It's also dangerous because it also gives a sense that nobody likes to be bored nowadays, and they think that if you're not it makes you think if you're not doing something constantly 24 hours a day, the 24 hour, like however many hours of the day you are awake, if you're not doing something, you're not achieving shit. Nobody can just sit there and just like, nah, fuck it, I'm just gonna lay right here. It creates a sense of urgency almost, and I don't know.
Yeah, it does, and it's just kind of poor, especially in younger people. Like, I think personally, I didn't get a cell phone until I was in middle school, and my first phone was a flip phone. I think I was in
Same.
ninth grade when I got my first smartphone, and even then, I think I was old enough at that point where it's like, all right, like I can kind of not be super drawn into it. And, the algorithms and shit weren't as good as they are now, to draw everybody in and get all this ad money and everything when, Facebook and all these other social medias first came out. But I think nowadays it's especially bad for really young people.
I don't think I got my first smartphone technically till I was like in 11th, 12th grade, honestly. Like for most of those times, it was the flip phone, or remember those kind of phones that where you kind of shifted the screen upwards and they had a mini like keypad that you can touch.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that was my first phone. I had one of those. That's not really a flip phone, but it essentially is because
It's a
instead of
slide
flipping,
phone.
it's sliding. Yeah, it's a slide phone. But yeah, I think like kids shouldn't be having phones until they should be able to have flip phones, especially if they're going out in their teenage years and their parents need to be able to get a hold of them, or if they're working, the job needs to be able to get a hold of you. So flip phone's good, but I don't think you should really have a smartphone until you're like 16, 17, maybe 18.
My sister's gonna be turning 12 February, and my mom wants to get her a phone. And like the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm just screaming like, make sure it's fucking flip phone, cause like especially nowadays. So she usually plays on like an Apple tablet. Usually she does like games like Minecraft and whatnot. She's obsessed with that stuff. I figured out the other day that she actually has her own YouTube channel. 3 subscribers, mind you. But, like, still, that shit can even be scary sometimes. Like, because you always run the danger of, like, even with, like, child protective softwares in place, like, there's always the danger. Like, if someone is, like, if a kid is able to come up with a YouTube channel, like, all by themselves, like, God knows what else they can shift around with the technology on the device. And if they figure out how to unlock the child-proof locks, that shit's scary. Because there's some weird ass dudes out there.
Yeah, my little brothers are like second and third grade, maybe third and fourth, and they've both had smartphones for quite a while now, and it's kind of weird to see. For sure, especially like when I go to my parents' house and we're like at the dinner table and everybody's just got their phones out. I'm just kind of like, this is strange.
Now I feel the same way when I go to a bar and like we're all sitting there and then all of a sudden people just start taking out their phones and whatnot, and like I almost feel like the asshole and the weird dude if I don't. That that doesn't really so much scare me as much as it does disappoint me.
Right. Yeah, and then yeah, like you're in those positions where it's like you're just that one person that's like not on your phone and you just look at everybody's on their phone and then you just kind of opted to like pull out your phone.
It also makes you not want to leave the house without your phone. Like I've done that several occasions, mind you, and and like and then I go to a place like a social gathering or the bar or like somewhere. Somebody's be on their phone, and I just sit there looking like the weird dude because I was hoping I could actually socialize and not, you know, look at somebody looking at a bright ass blue screen in their hand, a mini computer in their hands. Like, is that too much to ask for? I don't know.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm guilty of this myself too, but I think a lot of times, you know, people will like the moment something gets awkward or like, you know, you don't want to make eye contact with somebody, you just pull out your phone to make it, you know, look like you're like on your phone, even if you're like not even doing anything on your phone. Like people do that.
Sit with the awkwardness, people.
Yeah,
Builds character.
I think yeah, I was just gonna say you gotta embrace that awkwardness sometimes because, you know, it might be awkward, but you might, you know, one meet somebody new or cool, or you might learn something from that, you know, awkward experience that you wouldn't, you know, just looking at your fucking cell phone.
Learn. Who learns anymore, Ed?
I do, man. Fucking double major, double minor. It's rough.
Yeah, no, you're kicking ass for the rest of us in terms of intellectualism.
I try. I don't know. It's a lot. I'm taking all the social sciences, which is pretty cool. Political science, sociology, psychology, and anthropology.
And what's your conclusion on humanity?
I don't know. I think we've kind of lost our way. I think, you know, I like the position that I'm in. You know, I still have more to learn and more to do towards my degrees and everything. But I think, you know, I'm not going to say I get every single person, but I can understand where a lot of different people are coming from with a lot of different things. And I kind of see points to both sides, whether it be politics or other types of things. And I think, you know, what I'm learning and the things that I'm going to school for, it's nice because, you know, I'm not an expert in any of these particular fields, but, you know, when it comes to political science, I actually understand, you know, a lot of politics. I understand, you know, certain terms, you know, like I understand that like communism, you know, is different now in connotation and definition than when it was like originally created. Like I understand where a lot of these, you know, ideas come from and how government kind of works, and I'm learning a lot about like the way the world trade system works. So I understand a lot of the, you know, politics better and just the way that governments kind of operate. And then when it comes to anthropology, you know, I understand how people of the past acted and behaved and what they believed and stuff like that. Psychology, you know, I'm kind of learning, you know, how the individual mind works and how that, you know, plays out within society. And then sociology, how groups of people interact and do different things. So I just have a really like humanistic perspective on just like people in general and how kind of societies and things work.
More an all-around perspective.
Yeah, and then I definitely have changed a lot, you know, with some of the things that I've learned and understand more completely now. What are your thoughts on the way humanity is going?
Well, what I've said about my take on humanity more the past couple years is that I'm kind of like a cynical optimist, or that would be the best way to describe it. Like, there are time. The one thing I've always said is hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Like, right now, humanity could be better, but at the same time, also, even though this, like, for some people, it feels like this is our lowest point, for some reason, it always feels like, knock on wood, it could always be lower. And more importantly, I've been through my own fair share of personal trauma and, like, own whatever. Everyone has a story. So, like, I figure I lived through that stuff. Like, honestly, everything currently right now kind of just pales in comparison. And the best I can do, like, to help is just, like, be there, say what I have to say. If people like it, good. If not, well, just change subject, or help, maybe even change group. I don't know. I think I think humanity is the galactic equivalent of a cockroach. What I mean by that is that we've been through worse. We'll do it again.
Yeah, I definitely I wouldn't say we're at an all time low. I think with that it's kind of hard because there's multiple angles to that. I think the current time we live in 2020. It's easier to be alive and just have your basic needs met
I hope.
now than it is throughout most of history. Now, granted, there's certain people that struggle. There's homelessness. There's all sorts of individual struggles. But as a collective whole, I think it's much easier to just exist and be a human now than it ever was in the past. But that comes with a whole host of other problems that we're currently dealing with. I think mental health wise, I think we're in a bit of a crisis, and I think that a lot of that again comes from social media, and just from other things. COVID aside, COVID is definitely creating more mental health problems and whatnot as well. But it's hard to say. I also didn't experience any other times in the 20 years I've been alive, so I can't, fully speak on them. But I don't think we're necessarily at an all-time low, but I don't think we're at an all-time high either.
Probably somewhere stuck within the middle. Yeah, because if anything, COVID was just kind of like a test run of an actual apocalyptic setting.
Yeah, I think the COVID thing, again, it's hard because, you don't know what's true in the news, and you've got the CDC kind of going back and forth on their statements. And I think, whether he seemed to have been doing it for the right reasons, but Fauci did lie, man. And that created a lot of problems. He said, don't wear masks. And his intention was, if I tell everybody, oh, you got to wear a mask, then everybody's going to go out and buy all the fucking masks, and, our first responders won't have them. I get it. They need masks, sure. But if you said, hey, you should probably wear a mask, but, we got to make sure that first responders get them, I like to believe that, first responders would have still gotten their masks, and communities would have made sure that their first responders were taken care of.
And you're telling me there's not enough material to make enough masks for everyone? That's...
Oh, there's enough material, but it was just not, resources weren't allocated towards making masks prior to COVID.
I don't know. It's just like... I don't know. It seems like the world's changing day by day, especially, like, when it comes to statements about COVID. So, like, it's so hard to pinpoint, like, what to do versus what not to do. And I think that's where people get more frustrated. It's just that nobody can give a straight answer on what's good.
Right. And it's like, honestly, I would rather have somebody on the news come out and say, listen, someone asked the people on the news, oh, is this virus airborne? Instead of saying, yes, this virus is airborne, and then a week later, no, this virus is not airborne, and going back and forth, I would rather just, at the moment, just say, listen, we don't know. We're trying to figure it out. We'll let you know as soon as we know.
It also sends the wrong message when, like, you say, like, socially distance, but then you allow people to be in schools, be in stores, be, like, in fucking restaurants, and it's just like, bro, just pick a side.
I think the big
Stick
thing
with
was
it.
protests. You know, I'm not saying I disagree with protesting. I believe in the First Amendment. But that being said, it's undeniable that these protests resulted in a lot of extra cases of COVID that didn't need to necessarily be a thing. And then, especially when you've got mayors saying, you know, you can protest, but then you can't go to a bar or you can't go to a funeral. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Or have a wedding. How many weddings have been canceled just because of COVID?
Yeah. I'm actually going to a wedding at the end of the month. I'm pretty excited.
Yep, dope sauce.
Yeah. I'm glad that the wedding was still able to happen with 2020 and COVID and everything.
I am too.
But
Those two deserve it.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, a lot of things have been canceled and shut down due to COVID, and I agree with a lot of it. Some of it not so much, and just the strategy we went about, locking everything down was kind of whack. I think we should have done a hardcore, full blown 2 week straight shut everything the fuck down, and then they should have had, people in hazmat suits going door to door. Do you need this medicine? Do you need, people, if they need medicine, get your shit delivered. And, give everybody a little bit of a warning. And then it's like everybody gets what they need. And you have people going around. It's no different than if you have, like, when the weather gets bad. Obviously certain places don't have this. They don't have snowy weather. But up here in New York, if the weather's super bad, you have travel advisories or travel bans, which is essentially only first responders are allowed to travel the roads because it's considered a risk, with shitty road conditions.
So here's my question. Like something similar, not exactly like that, but something similar had happened to other countries around the world, even more westernized countries like us. So where does America in particular? Where does the United States like really defer that keeps it the people, the general populace, from participating like even the most westernized of civilizations that surround us? Like being smart about it.
Yeah, it's just, COVID just wasn't handled smartly at all. It just wasn't. And even, you had all these rules in place and whatnot, and they weren't super strict on it. And don't get me wrong, it sucks that you'd be forced to stay in your house or whatever. But if we would have done like a full-on 2 week full shutdown, then they would have found out everybody that has COVID in that 2 week span, and then it's over with. We can open everything back up, this and that. You flush out all the cases. There's nobody going door to door spreading it. And it is essentially, we should have, I guess, in a way, enacted like martial law for 2 weeks. Just shut everything down completely for 2 weeks. You know what? It sucks. We're all in it together. 2 weeks. We got it. It's a small amount of time. Most people can get enough groceries, even with, everybody going to the grocery stores and shit. Most people can get enough shit for 2 weeks. And then if not, you got the army coming in, dropping meals ready to eat for people. And it's over 2 weeks, as opposed to the position that we're in now, where, it's, oh, we're going to slowly open shit up. Oh, there's a spike in cases. We're going to slowly shut shit back down. Oh, nobody can go to work. Oh, this business is shut down for months.
It's almost like the weather in the North Country.
Yeah, it's just all over the place, and then it varies so much from state to state and town to town even. And then, you've got all these borders that are shut down. Like our area, I think, got hit particularly hard with COVID. I think we, especially in Plattsburgh, were hit very hard for the fact that obviously we have all of the normal economic impacts and downfalls of COVID that, a lot of other places and all over the world experienced. But the thing about Plattsburgh is that it is a college town. The population of this town, probably fucking triples in colleges in town?
Something like that.
And, college shut down early. You got all these people just mass, leaving Plattsburgh. Businesses weren't necessarily prepared for that. and that caused a lot of issues with businesses up here.
And then you get a lot of fuck faces who want to politicize like the rules behind quarantine and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's true. We'll get into that in a second. Just one more area where Plattsburgh really got fucked with COVID is the Canadian border closure. We rely heavily, especially in the summer, on Canadian business, and the border's been shut down for a while, and that all the campsites up here were just empty this summer.
Never has anyone from the North Country missed Canadians ever more than this past summer.
Yeah, but yeah, you were talking about the politicizing of quarantine. What do you want to say about that?
Well, look, what hasn't been said about it? Like, I mentioned this during my first podcast on We Got Nothing. Like, you got a bunch of people who can misconstrue a lot of the quarantine procedures as a violation of First Amendment rights, which to a certain extent there are some. But at the same time, also, like I mentioned, it's for a good cause. Like what you were saying about martial law, like, let's face it, COVID, like especially when it hit the U.S., it was a state of emergency. That is cause and effect to get martial law in place. And like you said, it wouldn't have taken that long. But then you have like one side of assholes who think it's just to prove a point versus people who actually want to save lives, who want to actually see a tomorrow. And I don't know, it was like I was asking you before, like, what separates America from the rest of the world, including other westernized bodies similar to us, where there is an actual debate about how COVID policy can equal political scandal or violation of rights? Like, are you... I don't know.
I think with America, the problem is that, and this isn't necessarily a problem, I think this is kind of what makes America America, but it has its pitfalls as well as its positives. And that is, the firm belief in the Constitution and the amendments. And, it is said, an amendment in a Constitution, all that type of shit, is only as good as it is in time of war, because if you're in a peaceful time and then it works, but then if you go into war and all your amendments and constitution doesn't mean shit, then it never really meant shit in the first place. I get that perspective, but at the same point in time, if there's a true state of emergency and you temporarily your rights have to maybe be violated a little bit, I understand that too, but a lot of people are just so set on, oh, this violates that, this violates this. And I get that, but like, it'd be much better to have your rights violated for a couple of weeks than, the position that we're in right now.
Well, also, it also boils down to one of humanity's biggest flaws, and it's like, nobody likes being told what to do, flat out. I know I don't, and, like, let's face it, when you tell somebody, like, you have to be at this certain spot for X amount of time till we say so, I can absolutely see people taking umbrage in that. But again, going back to what you're saying, like, it's all about, can that person see how it can actually affect the greater good? Because I was actually, this is something we talked about, I think, when you and I did my podcast. There's been such a greater emphasis and focus in the past couple decades now on what can the individual do? How good is the individual? Like, the individual is special versus community, staying together, sticking together. We're all in this together, bull fucking shit. Then why are we still in this?
Yeah. I think, too, it's really, again, that's part of America is just individuality, and I think that is good to an extent, but at the same point in time, that's getting away from our roots, man. Like, if you were in a hunter-gatherer society and you were just cared about your individual self, You'd probably get kicked the fuck out of your hunter-gatherer society.
The irony here is it's so salty too. Like, we're all in this together as individuals. Fucking oxymoron right there.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. Yeah, I think with COVID, like, I really thought, we were gonna have this group community sense, like, let's get through this together. And I don't know, I kind of felt that for a hot second, and then it just kind of disappeared. And then everything started getting really, really politicized.
I'm
And
still hopeful for my alien attack, honestly. Because, like, it's one thing for, like, a disease policy. Like, how the fuck are you going to politicize if a UFO coming to destroy us all? Like, are there actually going to be people who don't want to do anything about it and say, fuck it, we're all going to blow up? It's like, no, there's going to be some resistance on that.
yeah, I don't necessarily, think that if they're. I believe in aliens. I think, they've probably been here. And all that aside, if aliens, were to come, I think that they would wait for a better moment in time. And I think because whenever you hear, in fiction and whatnot, and you see aliens, this and that, it's this alien race is invading America, or not America, but invading planet Earth. But it's just this alien race. Like humans, we're still kind of on that tribal shit. We're still kind of like tribes. It's just on a grand, massive scale with countries and shit.
Oh,
Because if aliens came down, who would they talk to? Would they talk to America? Would they talk to Russia? Would they talk to China? I think they're gonna wait until the world is one united group of people in one front, and I think we'll get there eventually.
well, like you said with tribes, that harkens back to the concept of cliques and, like, high school, especially. Like, that you always had to have your own group, your own niche, your own specific group of people to follow, and that's still kind of followed in society today. And that still kind of separates like a bit of community because that's not the community as a whole.
Yeah, I'm a little different in that sense. A lot of people are like that. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place with certain things. Like I like to learn a lot of different things, and I've never necessarily honed in on one particular thing. And I've been that same way when it comes to people and just things in general. Like I never really had that one particular group that I like fit in perfectly. But I was like friends with everybody. I was welcomed in every group, so to speak. But I wasn't necessarily the jock, even though I played soccer one year. I wasn't necessarily the fucking nerd, even though I played video games a lot. I wasn't necessarily, in any particular niche or group. Like, I've always kind of just bounced around, and I think that that's helped me, realize a lot of different perspectives on different things.
Well, that's the thing. Also, it's about learning perspective. Also, trying new things.
Yeah. I think, it's good to not just be part of one group all the time. I think it's good to bounce around and get a feel for the different groups of people and just different things. That's why I want to travel the world, man.
That's the danger of settling into a particular clique or a particular niche. You lose so much perspective on what's good in the world in general.
Yeah, and then it's just like you get comfortable too. And once you get comfortable, you don't want to push yourself and go through some of the uncomforting things. And I think, as much as being uncomfortable can suck, I think that's where you have the most growth.
Ironically, like the best way to see the best of yourself is getting out of your comfort zone.
For sure. Well, yeah, I think we covered quite a bit tonight. Do you have any final regards?
Final regards. Well, it is at the time of recording this 13 days till Halloween. By then, I'll finally be able to celebrate a full month of sober October, and the day after that, my birthday. And personally, I can't wait to finally end off 2020. I thought some years past sucked, but 2020 You are a dirty little hoe.
Yeah, 20 man. But anyways, guys, this has been episode 3 of the Hightide. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found some of this stuff enlightening and